feelings of everything. So it's and it's really well written. It's really
It's beautiful.
thoughtful. Yeah. So I'll let Maureen explain what we're going to do because she's running the Substack thing or the Squadcast thing.
The Squadcast.
Okay.
I'm the tech. I'm also the tech, which is really funny. So what we do, Jen, is that Wendy and I will talk a bit. We'll do a little preamble, sort of as if you're in the wings, although everyone will see you. But then we sort of establish what we're expecting and what we hope to do with the interview, and then we say, "And here she is," and then it's a free for all for about half an hour. Yeah, I don't know if it's like a lot of podcasts. It's not so much an interview as a conversation, and your topics are so ripe for conversation that we want to talk about pop culture phenomenons that have let us down as well or inspired us.
So many.
Yeah.
So many.
So we're going to start right now. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you sound great.
Goodness, yeah, and the end will come a bit abruptly, but whatever. I'm sure you've done this before. So.
We'll let go of your ears. You know what you're doing. Wendy.
Hey, Maureen.
Hey, hi. I have an idea for this particular episode.
Well, what do you mean? We read Jen Sookfong Lee's book, the Superfan book. We both loved it, and she's going to talk to us.
Yes, but no, it's in keeping with that. I just thought we both enjoyed this book so much, and we were both so moved by how she had connected moments and people and texts from popular culture to her life and revealed all these very personal experiences. And I was very inspired by that.
Yeah, it really is very personal. She talks about her dad who died of cancer. We kind of know about that, but we had kids. We weren't kids. She was a kid. She has a depressed mother, maybe. I don't know how much we want to talk about that, but it's pretty raw. And she's the youngest of 5 girls growing up in East Vancouver. A few years ago.
When also being a Chinese Canadian woman, and with that, with everything that entails, and becoming a single mother herself, and just her whole life is spelled out through the lens of reading Anne of Green Gables or Princess Diana. Anyway, so this is my idea. I thought we would bring up some. You want to hear it?
Yeah. What is it?
Okay. So I thought we'd bring up some of the pop culture people and moments that Jen touches on in her book and see how they resonated or mattered, to us.
Okay. So like to us, like I don't know much.
Like you and me. I know you don't, which is why this is going to be hilarious. But you know more than you think you do, right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I grew up as a news person, so I always thought that, like you're a pop culture person, I'm a news person, so I never really read books and stuff. I have feelings. I have very deep.
I know you do, but were you like a little news person that stood on a fake hill with a fake microphone? I mean, you obviously were exposed to probably more pop culture than you realize. So we're counting on that.
And I'm semi-retired now, so there's only so much that I can read about Ukraine and everything else. So,
so
a few other things.
So Jen writes about Anne of Green Gables, the TV painter guy, Bob Ross, whom you've never heard of, Princess Diana.
Heard of her.
Yes, good. Evelyn Lau, Rihanna.
Yeah, Gwyneth Paltrow. I've heard of all of these people except for the painter guy. There's a few others.
So I thought we would pick some of these texts ourselves and talk about how, like, Heidi was a big thing for me growing up. And we can talk about that. Heidi changed my life, and I'm not even kidding. So why don't we get started? Here she is. Here she's been the whole time.
Hi, Jen.
Yes,
Hi.
Jen Sookfong Lee, author of Superfan, her latest novel. Congratulations. It's not a novel, collection of essays, I guess. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. It's been great so far. Now I'm here talking to you two. What a great time we're having.
Well, so far we're enjoying ourselves. So where to start? How did you know where to start? I mean, you started with Anne of Green Gables, and you read all her books, all of the Anne books. I was more of an Emily girl myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that speaks volumes about the two different type of characters. Why did you start with that? Because did you think it would have a particular Canadian resonance?
Yes, there's that. It's it's the most Canadian thing other than maple syrup and like ice hockey, right? It's Anne of Green Gables. And like for me, I really wanted to start with my earliest sort of obsession that lasted a really long time. Like I was obsessed with Princess Diana too, but that didn't last forever. Anne of Green Gables for me is like an evergreen thing that I love. And I wanted to start there partly because it was going to be a really good discussion on sort of my relationship with my family and particularly my dad, because those years that he was sick and then when he died are very like nicely bookended by my experiences reading those books. And like regular life is much messier than that usually. And I'm like, well, this seems neat and bookended. So as a writer, I'm like, let's do the easiest thing first in terms of craft. So that's where that started, really.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm, women of ill repute. I, started out early as a political reporter. I'm like obsessed with the whole woman thing, but I'm not a person of color. And so I didn't feel like I had to fit in. I sought other ways. And so Anne of Green Gables, she was sort of an exception. I mean, she ended up marrying that guy, Gilbert or whatever.
Gilbert.
Yeah. So she kind of gave in to me at the end. There weren't very many women, and there certainly weren't very many women of color who were strong women at the time. But I think you identified with Anne because she was an orphan. Kind of,
yeah.
Even
the
though
orphan
you weren't.
thing. Yeah, even though, I still had my mom, but she was an orphan. And I think that scene where Matthew dies in Anne of Green Gables, spoiler alert for people who don't know about Anne of Green Gables, but like when he dies, that scene resonated with me so deeply because he says to her, I would have rather had you than a dozen boys. And I think that was something that my dad, I used to joke about this, but I used to call my dad the first Chinese Canadian feminist because he had 5 daughters and he really didn't have a choice. If he wasn't a feminist, it would have been bad. And he would constantly, when I was little anyway, reiterate to us that, never trust a man, don't rely on a man for your income, 10% of your paycheck in the bank, always those things. And my sisters and I are very strong women. So in Anne of Green Gables, that relationship she has with Matthew, who believes that she can do anything in the world, who believes in her so deeply, even when Marilla, his sister, doesn't, resonated so deeply with me. And also the other thing about Anne is that she has like uncontrollable emotions. And I really, really connected with that because I had so many feelings when my dad was sick, like all the feelings. And I often felt like that wasn't, seemly or well behaved to express those emotions. And she, at least when she's a child anyway, gets to express those emotions. She becomes very respectable later on in her life, which is when, she lost me a little bit after that movie.
Yeah. And that's why I'm going to make my argument for Emily, is that in her 3 books, Emily of New Moon, Emily Climbs, and Emily Climbs Down. I can't remember the third one.
I don't remember the title of that third one either.
The third one. But she all she wants to be is a writer, and she does not compromise, and she does not give up. And so she takes Anne's, and again, flashes of temper and pride and orphaned, and with 2 aunts and an uncle instead of 1. But yeah, she pulls herself up and she moves beyond the confines of her role. So I'm more of an Emily person. I want to read them again right now. And you do that.
Yeah, I still reread Anne of Green Gables, the whole thing, every year up until the last one, which is set in World War I. But I still do it because it's a comfort. I should say about Emily. So I have this theory about Emily versus Anne. I also loved Emily as well. But Anne of Green Gables was the book I think Ella Montgomery thought she was supposed to write. And then Emily became the books that she wanted to write. And I think also, in her life, she would have much rather have been an Emily. That's my thought.
I was really fascinated by, this might be saying too much about myself, but you said something about how, which celebrity were you in love with? We were all in love with it. I was never really in love with celebrities, which is probably saying way too much about me. But you had all of these sort of crushes on people like John Cusack and these sort of sensitive white men. And then you write that he's kind of like a stalker. There's that famous movie where you'd know the name of it.
Say Anything.
Outside the window with a boombox. And she's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I am not at all interested in you. So I don't know. Is there such a thing as a sensitive white guy, or have you given up on that idea?
Have I given up on it? No, my partner may be listening. No, I have not. But I will say that I think that, it's always, so my partner now is like a sensitive white guy, right? And I love him very dearly, but there are always, when we're having conversations about, you know, like we were talking about International Women's Day, which was yesterday, and talking about intersectional feminism and stuff, and there's always like a kind of, not that I am teaching him about anything, that's not what I mean, but there's always like another consideration that he hasn't considered yet. There's always something he hasn't considered yet, because he walks through his life not having his identity or his body politicized, right? And it's not his fault. This is just who he is and what the world has how the world's been created. So I haven't given up on that, but like I also think that there is, when you're looking for, like when I'm looking for a partner, it's always has to be somebody who's willing to hear it and willing to process it and not immediately be defensive. And that is, I think, the best thing about my partner now. His name is Jeff. He very much is not defensive about it, which bless his heart. He just looks like he's thinking really hard when we have these conversations.
He's not listening.
He may not listen. He sometimes doesn't. It's like, you know, it's fine. Don't listen to my stuff. Just read my Goodreads reviews and tell me if they're good. That's all I need.
Jen, you go back, as we all do. I joke with Wendy that if I ever write my own book, it's going to be called "This Is Not About My Mother," because of course it will be.
Of course,
of course. And then this comes up again and again. I had a very, very difficult relationship with my mother. She passed away a few years ago, and now it's worse because she's not around. And your mother pops up in almost everything that you write about, and in a way, almost like you actually admire Kris Jenner, to bring it back to the pop culture aspect of this, because she is a supportive mother.
Yeah, at the end of the day, she is. Whether that's financially motivated or whatever, it's still, she cares.
Yeah. And I think she really does too. I mean, sure,
Yeah.
she makes a living out of caring as a mother, but that is there. And yeah, is your mother still alive?
She is. She's 84. She's in really good health. She doesn't have any prescriptions. She just takes supplements. She's at the casino a lot. She's actually okay, because I wanted to say that my mom, she still gets the sads, like she still gets depressed, but she is so much softer than she used to be. And that sometimes happens with people as they get older, right? So she's a good grandma, like the grandkids love her. She is generally, these days, all she really wants to do is go for brunch and gossip. And I'm like, that's fine. Let's do that. Yeah, much better now than she ever was before.
So she has not read any of your books because she's not fluent in English and wouldn't probably read them anyway. I mean, she looked at the cover of one of your books and went, "Oh, that looks good," and then that was that.
Yeah, she looks at the covers. She always turns them over to look at the author photo, and then she'll judge the author photo. Some are passable, some are not, as far as she's concerned. But she doesn't read English, which has actually been the greatest blessing of my life, honestly. But I would say she probably wouldn't read it anyway. Like that's not the kind of like level of involvement. That's not the kind of mom she is. She's not going to be up in my business regardless.
Yeah, wow, that's good. It's liberating.
About moms, I was really close to my mom, who raised me on her own, because my dad was gay and there was a whole, complicated issue, and she raised me on her own, but she loved me. And I was so touched by, your confrontation with your mom near the end of the book, where you say, "Mom, you just never told any of us that you love us." And I just wonder, like, I'm sure a lot of it is, trying to fit in as an Asian girl and wanting to be loved by your mom and whatever. But I wonder how much of your acknowledged obsession with pop culture is because your mom didn't love you. I mean, I just can't even imagine.
And Dr. Mesley.
Yeah, no, she's not that type of a person, just in general. She is not somebody who wants deep emotional connections with anyone, I don't think. Like, it's really just not who she is. She shows her affection for us in other ways, like she'll make us food, or she makes she brews these medicinal Chinese soups every week, and she says that's why I don't have wrinkles, which may be true. I don't know. It's like, I do have good skin. Thanks, Mom, for your medicinal soups. But and I think she's just not that person. And where after many years of therapy, I've come to understand that her love for us is never going to be that kind of love that I would see, like your mom, had for you that I would see my other girlfriends have with their moms, those relationships where, you know, you go wedding dress shopping with your mom. Like I never did that. I went wedding dress shopping with my girlfriends. You know, my mom didn't show up to anything. And it's kind of, you know, you get to the point where it's not about whether my mom loves me or not. It's about she's not capable of being that person. And that's okay. I hug my kid so much. It's probably too much for his liking. And I kiss him all the time. He's 12 years old. He does not want me kissing him, but I do it. And I do it in the morning when I wake him up because he's kind of half asleep. So he just is kind of lying there. So
yeah. Kiss him as much as you can. My son is turning 30. My youngest son is 24. And they come around again, but there's a good 10 years where you don't get to hug and kiss them.
Yeah, he still lets me at certain times of the day.
Yeah, certain times of the day. We are actually, podcasts aren't supposed to have any time, but as you mentioned, it was International Women's Day, and we are coming up on the Oscars. And speaking of pop culture, and Michelle Yeoh put out a very provocative. It wasn't really. She retweeted something about the fact that maybe Kate Blanchett deserves the Oscar, but it would be a game changer for Michelle Yeoh because she would be the first Asian actress to win the Best Actress Oscar. And a lot of people took issue with that you shouldn't be like Halle Berry, where it's not just that you were a great actor. It has to be pointed out you're the first African-American actress. What are your thoughts on all this? Because you're very aware of how Asian people have been represented in movies, mostly movies and television. So some thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot going on there. I think one thing I should say, Everything Everywhere All at Once is a wonderful cinematic experience. And Michelle Yeoh, I'm a really big fan of hers, have been since I was a child, and she was like kicking butt in Hong Kong movies, right? But like the way it is, like with prize culture in general, so whether it's like the Oscars or a book prize or whatever, it's never always just about the performance. It's never really just about the book or just about the movie. It's often about so much that this particular person or the cultural like asset brings to bear in sort of society, what they say about the culture and all of those things. So when people are saying like it should just be about the performance and not about, you know, sort of the background or the history of what it would mean for someone like a Michelle Yeoh to win is kind of disingenuous, because I mean, without all of that, you know, society or like, you know, white supremacy propping up an actress like Kate Blanchett, she wouldn't be where she is. So it's silly because everybody brings their own history to winning or not winning a prize. So I think it's kind of a silly, disingenuous question, and doesn't really go deeper into what makes Kate Blanchett so successful versus they're just thinking about what made Michelle Yeoh stall in her career. Well, there's two conversations there that are actually connected. And I will say, you know, I'm a Michelle Yeoh fan, and my biggest sort of like, if I was going to stump for her to win an Oscar, it would be that in Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is a deeply weird movie, wildly creative. A lot of people didn't understand it, which is fine. Like everybody has a different relationship with it, but how refreshing it is to see Asian filmmakers getting the opportunity to be deeply weird. Because we were given those opportunities before. If you're given the opportunity to be wildly creative, who cares if it's weird? That's great. I'm glad we get to do weird, fun things. That's all.
Yeah. That's what I loved about when you mentioned Ali Wong. So my one pop culture weakness, or one thing that I actually know anything about, is comedy. And Ali Wong, I mean, she's just amazing. And it's what you say about, it's not about trauma stories. It's not like, who gives a shit that she's Asian? It's just like she wants to have sex with her husband. She wants to make a joke. She wants to be
That's
funny.
Weird. Sorry.
What, you're not having sex with your husband?
In fairness, her husband is pretty good looking.
Yes, in fairness.
It's just so great that it's not like, who gives a shit, basically. Like finally that we can be there.
Yeah, finally an Asian woman gets to joke about her vagina on like a Netflix special. Why not?
Yeah, I know. And that's something that, you know, white women have broken down those barriers for themselves. But now, I mean, if you're a woman of color or transgender or so on, you're sort of like the next wave because you haven't been allowed to be weird and be silly and take the same risks. So it's
Yeah.
an exciting time.
And we might fail, but that's okay.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
okay.
the mention that you made, and we can talk about Gwyneth Paltrow. You could do a whole show about
Oh,
Gwyneth
I do. I want to talk about Gwyneth. I miss talking about Gwyneth.
But I found it so interesting, Jen, that you said, and it's so obvious, but I hadn't thought of it. It's like, she's not for me. Like, she recognizes that a lot of women want to be perfect. And that, white women with means like me, like, I'm not interested in her vagina thing. I'm just, I know where to go to get a massage, and I don't need her, but she has tapped into something. So there's something, like, you hate her, I hate her, probably for different reasons, but she's kind of like Madonna, who a lot of people hate. She's kind of like created this huge, successful thing. And I don't know, maybe that's admirable, but I still hate her. So
I think, the thing about Gwyneth is that I think there are a lot of celebrities where people project their aspirations on. This is like why we love perfect looking people, right? Like, we love them because we aspire to a certain thing. But I think my problem, and I think most people's problems with Gwyneth Paltrow, is that she knows that and uses it and exploits it and monetizes that. That's the thing that I think the knowingness of it, I think, is really gross. It's cold. Like, it's cold, and she knows she's doing it because people are unhappy. Like, she's doing it, she's monetizing people's sadness, and that to me is just really, it's not nice. It's not like empathetic. It's nothing that I ever want to be, or want my children to be, or anything like that. And I think that that's why we hate her. Like, I think with Madonna, there's a little bit different there in the sense that she's been really successful at this one thing, but I don't think that she is trying to be aspirational for people. I think she's making a lot of money. She's looking a certain way. She's selling whatever she's selling, but I don't think she cares if anyone acts like her or takes her advice. So there's I feel like a bit of a difference. And Madonna is like, I don't really love her either, but that's like a whole other.
For different reasons.
That's
reasons. So true about Gwyneth. That's so well put, because that's exactly what it is. She is capitalizing on people's unhappiness. Although I'm sure she would be absolutely shocked to be told that, because
do you think she'd be shocked, or do you think she knows?
I think she's a little oblivious. I mean, to say things like in the interview where she was asked, that writer whom I love, with the
Kathy, Brodesser.
Yeah. And she said, why do you think people hate you? And she said, because of my discipline. I mean, come on.
I know. I know. Not because your parents were rich and famous, not because you look a certain way, not because you've had every advantage under the sun, really. Like, yeah. Please.
But you know what I've found, because I've spent most of my career writing and talking about famous people. And it's not, and I actually don't care about famous people. What I discovered along the way was that, judging them, which I did, reveals more about me and us than it does about them. And that's really why it's interesting, that the people that move us either inspire us or cause us to hate them. It's all about, well, I'm preaching to the choir here. It's all based on what you've been through yourself. Mm-hmm. And why you relate. So I was telling Wendy before this, I was absolutely, I was in love with Heidi growing up. And I mean, growing up in Montreal, I don't know why I thought I should be living with my grandfather in the mountains of Switzerland. I really did. And with a goat herd. And I just thought that would, so that's what I wanted to be so much. And I read the book over and over and over. And I wanted, now this is going to sound terrible, I wanted to be an orphan. I wanted my parents to be out of the picture so I could go and live with an old man in the mountain.
You know what? The heart wants what it wants.
The heart wants.
It's okay.
It's Woody, yes. That's a Woody Allen quote, isn't it?
Is it really? Oh no. Do I need to stop saying it then?
Oh no. Yeah, but it's true. We can't.
And I knew it. Yes.
But we can't necessarily pick the things that are going to resonate, or we won't necessarily understand why, particularly when we're kids. I was in love with Mighty Mouse. Like, in love with Mighty Mouse. I wanted to have sex with Mighty Mouse.
Oh, gosh. Wow,
I would get well, I didn't know what sex was, but I knew that I was very uncomfortable watching Mighty Mouse with my father.
He did really stand with his chest puffed out, though. Like, that's a real masculine energy there. Yeah, I get it. I get it.
I knew you would.
I think I ever wanted to have sex with Mickey Mouse, but
No, Mighty Mouse, please.
You're very different.
Well, even
That's just Mickey Mouse is gross. Mighty Mouse is hot.
I don't think I was always obsessed with politics, and I wanted to be in news, and I so all that.
Even when you were 5 or 6.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I didn't spend a lot of time reading books or watching I loved Lucille Ball because Lucille Ball, to me, she was a strong woman. And there were, like now there are lots. Like you're writing books. There are Michelle Yeoh, I hope will win the Oscar. There are strong women who are like doing stuff, but there wasn't anything when we were growing up. So I don't know whether I sort of gave up and moved on to other things. But even when I did interviews, like I did an interview with Gord Downey, who got tragically hip. I think you, Jen,
we've heard of him. Yeah.
You had a crush on him, and
I did
in a video at some point. And I was like, no, I'm way too busy. So I don't know. Everybody has their weird obsessions.
So if you were into news and politics and stuff when you were young, then who did you look up to when you were younger? Like who made your heart go, Lucille Ball? Okay.
I didn't want to have sex with her, but that's another podcast perhaps. No, but there wasn't. Yeah. Well, Maureen once asked me, we had our first fight about, so which politician would you like to fuck? Because she thought it was funny. And I didn't get the joke because I'm a journalist, so I have this training.
And I was like, make one up, Wendy, make one up just for laughs. And she's like, no, I don't find any of them attractive. And I said, well, say like Darcy McGee or Wilfrid Laurier.
John Diefenbaker. It's time.
Yeah.
Hard ones with the hard ones.
Exactly.
Now, who should we follow? Who's like Ali Wong for me, and who else? Is there any Heidis of today?
I often, I think about celebrity a lot, like all the time. But like it's my comfort thoughts, when you're sitting there and you don't want to think about work or whatever. I like, gosh, I wonder how Hailey Bieber is doing, and then I'll like look it up. Who do I love right now? I've been really into Pedro Pascal, which everybody is because of The Last of Us and The Mandalorian. So there's so many interviews with him on YouTube, and if you like handsome Chilean men, I highly recommend because he's delightful. He's
hilarious too. I watched him on Saturday Night Live, and he just was completely there, right? He didn't hold back, and he was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, he's lovely, and I love him. And like I've been really into. So Yellow Jacket season 2 is premiering in a couple of weeks, I think. And I've been very into all the women on that cast, like all the younger ones and the ones who are in their 40s. Like Christina Ricci's so deeply weird, and I really, really love her character. And I'm really curious to see, my partner was saying to me, he's like, she's so weird in this show, and she's like the weirdest one. I said, yeah, but they're going to flip it on its head. We're going to find out at some point she's probably the most normal one. Like there's the ones you think are normal, and they're also deeply weird, and like there could be a cult. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, great, I love this. I love not knowing, and I love when they scare me with weird stuff.
Yeah,
there you go.
Being seen as normal. I mean, everybody looks at me, and you're normal, and I get my hair highlighted, and I'm a white cis whatever woman, but I don't feel very normal, and I think that all my friends or all the interesting people are kind of weird. So I don't know, what is normal, what is weird. I mean,
what is normal?
Exactly. Well, you're not exactly normal, Maureen, which is
God, no. And that was the thing that distressed me growing up, as this lonely kid. I was in theater, Jen, and I was also the only English speaking person in a French school and the only non-Jewish kid in the theater school, so I was always on the outside, and I thought all I wanted to do was be like everybody else. And I wasn't. And so books and movies were my friends. And then I found out later, as I think most of us, evolved people have, is that being different was the best thing you could. It's not what you want, but it makes it in the end, you're better off for being a weirdo, I think.
I think, well, the thing is about being a weirdo, like for me, was that I always felt like it was bad. Like we all feel this when we're young. It's bad. I shouldn't be this way. Whatever. And I was talking about this with someone recently, a friend of mine, and what I write about this in the book, like this kind of restless, I have a restless spirit. I have a lot of feelings, and it's difficult for me to not have the feelings or show the feelings. And sort of that restless spirit has led me to having this life and this career. And I'm really grateful for that. Like, and in some ways, you know, yeah, I made some bad decisions about, I don't know, real estate maybe, or, you know, those types of decisions. And you know, as far as like my mom is concerned, those are bad decisions and not normal and all that other stuff. But would I have written this many books? Would I have, you know, been able to, you know, do the media that I do or whatever if I wasn't a little bit weird? If I didn't have this restlessness that drives me to always make the decision in service of that restlessness, you know? So, I mean, like, you know, we end up being weird, but then we also end up like using our weirdness to our advantage if we're lucky, you know?
If we're lucky.
We never asked you about Diana. So there's a whole other conversation there. But so we're back to the whole, you know, like she looked kind of normal. And then you realize that she wasn't normal. And you're saying that she probably, if she were alive, she would look down and think that Meghan Markle was actually saying, yeah, you go, girl. You know, I'm not a monarchist, so it's easy for me to make fun of of the royals. And to me, Meghan Markle is just doing what the royals have been doing for forever. I'm sure there's another way of seeing this, and that has been written about, but I don't know. It's the whole thing about everybody tries so hard to fit in. And do you feel now that you don't have to try as hard? Like I'm looking for you to say yes, but you can say no.
Oh, no. I haven't tried to fit in ages. This is not like probably since my like, you know, mid 30s or something is when like I really, you know, I remember when I was younger, when like my first books came out and I would go to these like literary events and I'd be terrified. Like I'd have panic attacks before I walked into these rooms, right? Because there's all these writers and they're all men and they're all white and they all, you know, they have their, you know, their groupies and like whatever. And I was just, you know, everyone always thought I was the server, which is fine. Like, but I would have these panic attacks and I would try to fit in so much. Like I would try to be able to have, you know, these conversations with these people who clearly didn't want to have conversations with me ever, almost never. And it wasn't really, I guess I was in my 30s when I was like, you know, going to some literary event or whatever. And I'm like, who cares? I'm just going to bring my best girlfriend who I've known since I was 7. And we're going to drink the free whiskey and eat the wine and like eat the cheese, the sweaty cheese cubes that are on the platters. And we're going to have a great time. And everything was so much better once I decided I didn't need to impress those people. I was going to write my books. I was going to promote my books. And if they don't want to talk to me, that's cool. I don't want to talk to them either then. And it did take quite a long time for that part. But no, I haven't tried to fit in. I am what I am now, right? Like this is it. I have a weird portrait of myself with my dog above my bed. This is the life I live. And I am not ashamed that everybody on Zoom gets to see it. It is what it is.
But by the same token, I would say that Superfan of all your books connects you, whether you care or not, or whether you want to or not, with so many people across so many planes and from so many divergent backgrounds, because even if we didn't make a big fuss about it, we did and do care about a lot of the same things, maybe for different reasons, but we care.
Yeah.
Well, Wendy, not so much, but she's getting there.
I care. I'm trying to care more. I now have time. Tell me more.
I was, you know, it's fascinating to me how it resonates with so many different people and who from different communities and, you know, different backgrounds and whatever. Because I didn't necessarily think that was going to be the case. And, you know, you never really know who's going to pick up a book or who's going to connect with it. But like, it's so nice to see that it's resonating with people. And I think it's because there's always something that we love. Doesn't even have to be pop culture. There's always something that we love, that we're obsessed with, that we want to do all the time, that is our comfort thing. And I think that sort of relationship with whatever that thing is really like universal. And I really think that what Superfan asks people to do is to think more deeply about what we love and what we hate, and to think about what that says about us. And I think that sort of interrogation for people actually feels kind of good. People want to think about that stuff. And I'm like, great. I'm so glad it didn't cause you discomfort instead.
Oh, a little bit. You know, a little discomfort isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the best thing about us doing this podcast is we're still learning. And I hope that everybody keeps learning, because that's the only thing that really matters is like keep learning, let's keep involved in the world. And I'm glad that you're not trying to fit in anymore, and that you're just writing from the heart. I heard an interview with Margaret Atwood the other day, and she was saying, who gives a hoot? Just
But when you're Margaret Atwood, who does give a hoot?
She doesn't have to. Yeah.
No, where she really has nothing. You know what? I have a lot of hope for her. I think she's got a bright future.
That's scrappy Margaret Atwood. Her career, I hope it takes off sometime.
I hope it takes off. I hope it, it doesn't wait until she's gone. Just one question I want to ask you about your son. What's he into?
Visual art. So he just got into this like high school. He's in high school next year, which is like crazy to me. But he just got into this independent directed learning situation, which means he is going to be pursuing his visual art, which is fantastic. Also, he will end up living with me forever, but whatever, it's fine. It's
in Vancouver, yes.
Yeah. So, but that's what he's into. And it's really lovely to see. He creates some really beautiful things and some scary things.
About him, I guess the lesson that you learn from your mom and from life and from everything is that something about him. I just want him. I may not be the greatest at this or that, but I'm a good mom because I've learned to respect him and let him be the best version of the person he wants to be, which is what we all want. We all want to be heard. And anyway, it was lovely. We're obviously wrapping up now.
We're wrapping up. Superfan, Jen Sookfong Lee, how pop culture broke your heart. It didn't really break your heart though, did it?
It did at times, but there's some cracks in there, but my heart's okay right now.
That's good. We're glad to hear that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
All right. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Please stick around. We need a picture. Right?
Yeah. Just a sec.
Yeah.
Can I do it while we're recording?
We forget the time, but
it was so wild when I woke up this morning. Okay.
Oh, it looks great. All right. Big countdown. God, I hate that.
That's cool. I've never seen that before. That's cool.
Yeah, there's a little camera thing, and I take Wendy always reminds me to do it. There it is, and I never know what to do after that. So I'm just going to download it and worry about it later.
We'll do something with it, in theory. Really, really, really loved your book. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
absolutely,
much.
And hopefully
came through, but not yours. So it was really good. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, Jen.
There's pictures here. Okay.
Okay. I'm going to figure out how to do this. Bye now.
Bye. Have a good day. Bye.
We could have just gone on and on and on. Like I wanted to talk about Rihanna. I wanted to talk about Sia. I wanted to talk about the Joylette Club. It's a never-ending source of inspiration. And you did pretty well there, little junior news missy.
Thank you. I know so much about pop culture. No, I am interested. I find the themes really, really interesting. And now that I'm, I've sort of semi-retired or retired from CBC News anyway, I'm watching series. I'm interested. I've got time. So it's and reading her book, she's kind of amazing. I mean, and I think you had a really good idea. It's like it's all about pop culture, and all the other stuff gets woven in through it, because it is, whether it's politics or pop culture, it's all just about people, right? It's all just about ideas and people finding their way.
Let me ask you a question. Do you know who Pedro Pascal is?
I watched The Mandalorian.
So wow! But he's
know.
not. Would you know him to? Would you know him to see him on the street?
No, I don't know the name either. And the painted guy that he says was so foundational, the Ross or Rob, I can't remember. Anyway,
you know what? I envy you, Bob Ross, but no, don't worry about that. I envy you because you have such a world ahead of you, Wendy.
Yeah, lots to learn. Hey, I watched all the episodes of Veep and Arrested Development. They're like great. I saw
no. Yeah,
because,
thank God you're semi-retired, because you have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, well, I could tell you about Wilfrid Laurier. He was like great in that. Is that the joke?
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.